I'm joined here by Beth and Dan, and I have some questions for them about exploring the next wave of digital innovation. And so there are three themes that I'm really interested in learning about. We'll leave some time at the end for some questions from the audience, of course, but three themes I wanted to explore with our panelists. The first is engaging consumers at scale. How do we adopt these new technologies and ensure their success? And then looking ahead, what are some things that we can look forward to, and how do we prepare for the next wave of innovation? So the first question is, how are the latest digital innovations reshaping consumer expectations, and how are your offerings adapting to meet these new demands? Whoever wants to take this first.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to just say right off the bat, I'm surrounded by people who work at digital media and technology companies powered by AI, and I sell billboards for a living. So I want to frame that around my answer, because I think the consumer experience this day is very different than when I was growing up. We have a society of people who are more tech savvy, more data savvy than ever before. And I don't just mean the Gen Z and millennials who grew up as digital natives. We've all learned about the value exchange between brands and consumers as far as our data. We have an environment, though, where consumers, while they understand that, are really getting to the point where there's digital fatigue, if that makes sense. There's a study that was done earlier this year where the Harris polls looked at people's preferred way of receiving advertising. And the number one, 76% of people chose digital out of home over every other medium. And I think the reasons for that are fairly obvious, which is consumers can control what they see, they curate the content that they want to see, they have the ability to block advertising, and out of home is an unintrusive medium that's a creative medium that people actually enjoy. The challenge with that is, for obvious reasons, brands still prefer performance marketing and social media and mobile because of the data that comes with it. And so what we've been trying to do is bridge that gap. How do you create a good consumer experience so people enjoy the medium, but create a positive marketer experience? And so what we've done is brought to market the same types of data solutions in terms of audience analytics for planning, attribution, retargeting and amplification, and ultimately optimization to the world of billboards. And I think what that's leading to is a consumer experience that people enjoy and appreciate, and as really positive value for the brands in a way that marketers are comfortable with. We are literally not just focusing on the billboard, we're focusing on the audience and the outcomes that we're driving by exposing that audience to the brands.
Awesome. Beth?
So it's so fun. When we were prepping for this panel, we were realizing, gosh, we really touch different parts of kind of the overall consumer experience with a brand, right? And one of the things that I thought is really interesting in the world of mobile is I look across this room, no one's phone is more than an arm's distance away. And honestly, respectfully, I see some of you on your phones right now, so I know that you are engaged with that thing. And I think what's so fantastic about thinking deeply about reaching the folks who are the most the most important people for you to be telling your brand story to through digital is that when you look at a lot of the statistics about where people are spending their time and where people are really highly engaged, what we see within across the world of digital is that 90% of time that is spent on a phone is spent in app. And even more interestingly, and this has been something that I've been learning a lot about over the last couple of years, as the media ecosystem on a phone has gotten more fragmented, one of the transitions that's been super interesting to observe is that today 2/3 of time is now spent on phones outside of the walled gardens, outside of Google properties, outside of Meta properties. And I think that's a really interesting opportunity, right? Because think about all of the touch points that we each have with all of everything that sits on your phone right now. There are so many different engagement moments and formats, whether you're talking mobile games or you're talking what you're reading and learning about. And on top of that, there's so many different consumer experiences that brands are reaching you through to tell stories. And that can be video content, that can be full screen interstitials. And what I think has been really interesting, I've been in mobile advertising on honestly, like just after the app stores came out. What's been so interesting to observe is how a lot of the best mediums for storytelling have migrated and really optimized and found their niches within the mobile ecosystem, and really found a way to bring the power of like amazing consumer storytelling into that space and into that highly personalized space. So I think that a lot of the, it's been so fun to be here this week for Advertising Week, because like a lot of the reason that I think a lot of us are here is because we're looking ahead, right? We're trying to understand, like, what do I need to go bring back to my company, to my agency, to help us understand where are things going. And I think one of the big themes that I've been really struck by is, gosh, this landscape is changing quickly. And we need to be sort of like future-proofing the way that we storytell and we reach the people who matter most to us. And so that's just something that I've spent a lot of time thinking about over the last few years, both on the ad tech side. Spent a long time at Google. I'm at Moloco now. We make mobile advertising tech solutions. And then also on the brand side, I spent the last couple of years at Bumble thinking very deeply about this. So excited to talk more about that with this group.
Awesome. My next question is, what are some innovative strategies you've seen brands either on your platform or off your platform use to enhance consumer engagement within the current digital landscape?
Sure. I mean, I think that, like, ultimately, to be a brand advertiser and to reach the right user in the right moment, it's very difficult to do that. And I think that when I talk with folks who are really playing to the best of their ability as a brand and doing so in a really innovative way, what they're doing is they're thinking about reaching their consumers not just through a brand lens or a performance lens, which is where I feel like a lot of the marketing world has kind of tried to push people into one side of that or another. The most innovative folks are really thinking about, I want to tell a story to the person who matters most and is going to get the most value out of what I bring to the market. I want to tell a story to them that reaches them in the right moment at the right time with a compelling message that makes sense in the environment it's in. So much of marketing and advertising, particularly for mobile-first businesses like an Instacart, over the last decade plus, as mobile businesses have really grown a lot, people have really tried to say, oh, well, I specialize in brand, I specialize in storytelling, or gosh, no, I specialize in programmatic and measurable performance marketing. And I think the smartest people are saying, that's always been kind of a false dichotomy. If I'm going to be really effective at being compelling, I need to really think holistically. And so I spend a lot of time speaking with folks about measurement that enables you to do that, about the storytelling formats that really resonate in different mediums, and a lot of things that follow from that. So it's one of those things that I think so many times, like, I end up on a panel that's just talking about brand or just talking about performance, and it's something that I actually, if I were running a team again, like, I think it's so important to think holistically.
I'm sitting here smiling because if I pulled out my notes on my phone, it's like you wrote my notes. So this is great. I love that we're thinking the same way. The idea of understanding consumer journeys and behavior and getting away from thinking in terms of media silos and screens, I think, is critically important. And again, billboard guy, what I'm focusing on is the power of, like, the world's oldest advertising medium, with the data that's overlaid on top of that, to understand those moments, to understand those journeys, and the role that our media plays in driving performance. Historically, our medium has been looked at as a top of the funnel medium, and it's a fantastic, efficient way of building brand and reach at scale. But now we have access to the data to understand on a client-by-client, campaign-by-campaign basis, are we most effective and performative for them, top, middle, or lower funnel? And so we have more and more brands that are leaning into us, not purely for branding, but as a part of their performance marketing mix. So the best illustration of this that I can think of is there are certain verticals that haven't used out of home traditionally. Pharmaceuticals, CPG, things like that. And we have leveraged our data platform. It's a platform we built about 8 years ago called Radar. that leverages mobile location data primarily to understand where people go and what they do in the physical world and the role that out-of-home plays in changing that behavior. And it's based on an understanding of journeys. And so what we've been able to do is work with clients in CPG and in pharma to understand the challenges they have. And so many of the challenges they have come from the evolution of the ways, just like Beth was saying, that consumers engage with content. The typical media that CPG and pharma have relied upon don't work anymore. Who watches live TV and commercials on live TV? And if you ever do, like if you're watching a 24-hour news channel, all you see is ads. If you want to feel old, watch a 24-hour news channel, because the ads are all, it makes you feel like you're sick and you're old, right? And they're using that because they've been effective. And so what we've been able to do is show them how an understanding of where people go and what they do and the audiences that are reached, along with the data that we have, we run at scale campaigns for pharmaceutical companies where we help them select the locations based on an understanding of the audiences that are reached there and the likelihood that they align with their target audiences, which, by the way, are the exact same audiences are used for the digital targeting for social media and things like that. And then we're able to report back on doctor's office visits, script lift for these brands. Same thing with CPG. We've been able to demonstrate to multiple clients that using our medium literally changes the buying behaviors of households. And we do that by taking a digital orientation and a performance marketing orientation, but leveraging a medium that people actually like and that they pay attention to.
That's incredible. I feel so seen by what you both just shared, because this false dichotomy between brand and performance is certainly one that we still grapple with at Instacart, so couldn't agree more. Beth, we talked about this some yesterday when we connected, and I was just really interested to learn about how Moloco is deploying AI to reach consumers at scale. And so this is a question for you, but certainly feel free to jump in. I'd love for you to tell the audience a little bit more about that.
It wouldn't be a panel this year if there weren't an AI, like, check the box, would it? We should give out bingo cards. So Moloco, the quick history of Moloco. Moloco was built by a number of our founding team. They were engineers at Google, and they came out of that experience having worked on search, having worked on YouTube, with a deep understanding of how you build this, like, very strong tech stack that enables you to do performance marketing at mass scale. At Moloco, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make more winners in the overall digital economy by making that kind of power of the technology stack power accessible to more people. So if you're a retailer who's not named Amazon, like, it's great to be able to monetize your property really well. If you have a game app and you want to, like, you're growing your business, it would be great to be able to show ads there really effectively. If we all want to live in a world where the digital economy has a ton of diversity and is thriving, and that's really the foundation of what we're trying to do at Moloco. So we do that through something called machine learning, which is a form of AI that enables you to really be able to serve the right ad to the right person at the right time at mass scale. And something that I think has as we've all been hearing a lot about what is the future of AI, something I sometimes think about is new technology is wonderful, but, like, let's be focused on what value it can create today. What are the outcomes that this is driving for my business today? What AI can be very powerful in doing right now today is ingesting the data from your business, whether it's first party or otherwise, that helps you understand who are the highest value people who engage with my brand, and then use the very powerful engines of machine learning to go and find the right people at the right time with the right message, perhaps in places that you may not have been able to identify were going to be a great place to convert for you. And this is something that I think is really important. If you are running performance advertising today with Google, if you're running performance advertising today with Moloco, you are leveraging the power of AI for your marketing. But what it's really doing is it's helping you be much more effective in your marketing by doing things that are really hard for humans to do well. There's some things humans do extremely well. And this is why I think my perhaps a little bit of contrarian point of view is that in this world of AI, what does this mean for marketers? What this means is that the better that we know our business as marketers, the more deeply that we understand our data, and the smarter that we get at being able to identify these different segments of value that exist within our business. As marketers, like, that becomes an enormous value add as you're building a brand and really leveraging a lot of the power of this technology that, you know, is already in market. And so something I spend the thing I spend the most time talking about with brand advertisers today is really like helping them think through their data strategies. And I don't think it's fair as folks in the tech world to like leave people on their own to go figure that out. We have a big team of data scientists. We spend a lot of time with our team thinking through this, really like the strategy of leveraging data. And so the most important thing that I spend time on is measurement and business analytics, which is all in service of telling the stories that are really going to resonate with your consumers. And so it's tech, but it's all enabling the storytelling that matters.
And so I love what you said about there's some things that people do better than the platforms. That's actually the approach that we and my teams have been taking as far as AI. We're a people-driven business. We have a full-service creative team spread out across the country that does design work for clients. And so what we've been doing is embracing AI as a way of allowing them to be more effective and more creative. They can come up with a concept and use the platforms to help them visualize that, as opposed to helping them do it from the ground up. And so we have lots of examples of an idea that our creative team comes up with to be able to pitch a concept to a client, and they're able to visualize that quickly and effectively. We also, I mentioned our data platform. So one of the solutions we have, the platform is called Radar, and Radar View is our audience planning platform. It's a map-based interface with a UI that allows our teams to select from over 4,500 audiences, 16 million POIs, to be able to target based on a combination of audience, proximity, geography, all of that. And for many of our sellers, it's intimidating. It's a little scary because they're used to selling billboards. And so our data team is exploring, is there a path to using plain English? Instead of having to manually build a campaign based on selection from a large catalog of audiences, can we build a UI where our sellers can say, my client is looking to reach people who drink coffee and shop at Starbucks, and they're in Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Boston. What's the best inventory to help them reach that customer? And building that in a way that they can leverage all those variables to be able to quickly provide an informed campaign that combines that idea of proximity targeting with an understanding of where that type of customer goes and how do you reach them along those journeys. So there's just some of the examples of ways that we're using it. It's more about building off of what Beth said. How do we supercharge the talent and the value of the people that we have to allow them to be more creative, more effective, and move faster?
Right, absolutely. So shifting to adopting new digital technologies in your organization, what are some metrics, or how do you recommend that marketing leaders approach measuring the success of implementing a new digital technology, whether that's a new, maybe unproven media platform? I know, from my experience at Instacart, we test every single channel ad nauseum, and so just want to hear your perspective. Like, how would you recommend that brands and marketing leaders think about that?
So I'll jump in on that first. I'm going to be a politician. Like, I'm going to answer the question that I want to answer instead of what you literally asked.
Go for it.
I don't think it's about which metrics. I think it's the approach to metrics, because so many clients, the metrics vary by client, by brand, by campaign initiative, and things like that. My recommendation, and I'm using a word that Beth used before, you need to look at it holistically. We have traditionally measured campaign performance in silos. And again, speaking for a medium that just 10 years ago, the question was, can you even measure it? We've definitively answered that. But now what we're doing is working with more and more brands to say, it's not good enough for us to provide an attribution report 4 weeks after the campaign ends to say how wonderful it was. We need to participate in that omnichannel measurement. And so the approach that we take at Clear Channel is we've built a platform that not only allows us to provide managed service measurement, but a data feed. And the data that we have access to is not typically the data that most brands are capturing and using. And so more and more these days, what we're providing is a feed into an omnichannel measurement platform so that they can understand not just does out-of-home work, regardless of what the metrics are, but how effective is it incrementally. We are not a go-to medium for many brands. They start with digital, they start with mobile and social. And so we want to be able to make a case for why adding out-of-home drives better performance. There's a ton of data in our industry that speaks about out-of-home's ability to drive mobile, social, search behavior. And all that makes logical sense to me, because when you see an out-of-home ad, you typically have a device in your hand, in your pocket, in your purse, on the seat next to you in the car. You're in an environment where you have the ability to respond. And what we see is, if you, for example, one of the best practices with our clients is, what are the keywords that you're buying? Put them in your copy on your billboards, because you're creating top-of-mind awareness for the terms that you're using to capture that audience. And what we see is consistently out-of-home drives better search performance. The other side of that is social. Do you guys remember back in the day where ads used to say, follow us at, right, or look us up at www.whatever, right? We obviously don't need to do that anymore because we have an entire society that's been trained to use your device to engage with the things around you. And so what we see is social media is driven by out-of-home because people like creative, or if they see a celebrity or an influencer or a creator on our medium, they tend to share it. And talent does the same thing. Kevin Hart, The Rock, all these celebrities, it's a go-to tactic for them when they have a product coming out, a new release. One of the things that they do and they put up on their social is them standing in front of their billboard. Kevin Hart has done like all kinds of stunts where he gets like a crane and lifts them up to the billboard and takes, like, they love the fact that it's a bigger than life representation of them and their product. And what that does is it feeds into the social environment.
Absolutely. I'll admit, I actually took a photo of a Caitlin Clark billboard that I saw out here. It was a Nike one. I'm not sure if you guys saw it on your walk, but yeah, I can attest to what you just mentioned. So
appreciate the validation.
Yeah, Beth, we'd love your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, when I'm talking with folks who are making, a lot of decisioning real time across a number of different platforms, like, what are the big challenges that I hear people struggling with? I think the thing that has been really interesting to see the evolution in performance media over the last 10 plus years is how marketers, at the beginning of, there was a time where I was explaining to people the value of a Google search ad, and not everybody was bought in yet. At this, and what's been really interesting over time has been to watch people understand the value of fully measurable, real-time performance data on what it is I'm buying, the impact that it's driving, measure it, and be able to feel like my marketing dollars are being really efficient. I think what has been the big evolution, especially recently, is the opportunity to think beyond your most bottom funnel metric, but actually be able to get the real-time data and insist on my advice is insist on transparency to get this. If you're buying media, particularly digital media, you should insist on transparency. There's no reason to accept the fact that you can be running ads and your provider won't tell you where they're running. This is something that you should feel very confident doing. But to be able to start to look at what you're buying and be able to think about it, not just from the bottom of the funnel. In my world, that's a lot of people driving an install of an app, but actually start to say total business value, right? As a marketer, you are driving top line for your business. And so being able to speak with your finance team, your CFO team, saying, I'm not just driving vanity metrics, right? I'm not driving clicks, I'm not driving app installs. I am able to tell you that I am actually driving a full user experience for our company that encompasses a lifetime of purchases, right? It's not just, and this was something that a lot of the mobile industry figured out quite quickly, and I think has moved upstream to more traditional brand world. Instacart, I know, thinks very deeply about this, is thinking about the total return on your ad spend, thinking about finding not all users and not all customers for my brand are the same value to me. I should be able to go find the people who are going to be buying my grocery cart every single week, and that total cart value is $500, I should be able to go find those people and accurately forecast like what I should be willing to spend on them, and also know who's going to be a once a week $20 purchase, for my like Wednesday night dinner, and be able to think differently about reaching that buyer. For a long time we thought about segmenting by creative types. Now we're able to segment by value to the business. And I think that this is one of the reasons why I think machine learning is such a superpower, and AI is such a superpower when it's used effectively, is it's able to make you really effective at understanding the different segments within your business, and as a marketer, at a ton of measurable value in driving growth in those areas. So when I talk with people who are saying, gosh, I've got a lot of channels and I've got a lot of internal folks who have different agendas for me to be able to deliver, and I've got brand awareness metrics to drive, and I've got my CFO saying, what's the return we're getting here, to be able to really think that segmentedly about your business is such a superpower today. And where I end up spending a lot of time is helping people kind of think through that, so that you, as the marketing leader, can go back internally and really show the total business impact of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I could talk to you all for another 30 minutes, but unfortunately we're running short on time, so I think that's a perfect place for us to close. Thank you for an insightful discussion and for, just talking to us on this late Thursday. And thank you all for joining us. I think I'm now turning it over to John.
To John, yes, you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thanks, everyone.